Not so long ago, everyday life in Britain looked nothing like it does today. Behaviours that would now spark complaints, court cases, or complete disbelief were once just normal. So, let's count down 16 everyday things Britain used to accept without a second thought. Number 1. Smoking inside hospitals. Imagine walking into a hospital today and being hit not by the smell of disinfectant, but by a thick fog of cigarette smoke. It sounds crazy, but it was reality. Patients would light up while still hooked to 4 drips. Visitors puffed away beside hospital beds as if they were in a pub. Even doctors and nurses joined in. Staff rooms had overflowing ashtrays, and hospital corridors carried a permanent haze. Maternity wards weren't even exempt. Some babies literally took their first breath in a smoke-filled room. It wasn't until the 1980s that public health campaigns finally started to turn the tide. Slowly, but surely, hospitals became smoke-free. But for decades, tobacco and medicine shared the same space. Number 2. Children riding in cars with no seats and no belts. Family car journeys used to mean absolute chaos in the back seat. Kids would be standing up, leaning out of the windows, or perched on someone's lap while the car was barreling down the motorway. Proper car seats were a rarity. Most families just didn't own one. It felt normal, even free, but accidents were often deadly. By the 1980s, tighter laws brought in child seats and mandatory seat belts. Today, letting a child ride unrestrained feels criminal. And yet, many people still remember bouncing around the back of the family car with fond, if slightly terrifying, nostalgia. Number 3. Corporal punishment in schools. For generations, discipline in British schools came with a dose of physical pain. Teachers kept canes, slippers, and rulers close at hand, and they weren't afraid to use them. A missed homework assignment, or talking back in class, could end with you being spucked sometimes privately in the headmaster's office, other times in front of the entire class for maximum humiliation. And parents accepted it. The old saying, "Spare the rod, spoil the child," wasn't just a saying, it was school policy. By 1986, the cane was finally banned in state schools, and later in private ones. It's completely unthinkable today, but countless adults alive right now still remember the sting vividly. Number 4. Children buying fireworks. Picture bonfire night back in the 60s or 70s. Children would walk into a corner shop, hand over a few coins, and walk out with their pockets full of rockets, bangers, and Roman candles. No ID checks, no adults needed. Inevitably, this led to a lot of accidents. Burns, lost fingers, and backyard explosions were all part of the fun. Eventually, stricter age limits were brought in. The idea of a 10-year-old buying explosives today seems outrageous, but once upon a time, it was just part of the excitement of the season. Number 5. Kids buying alcohol for their parents. A simple handwritten note from mum or dad was all a child needed to go to the off-license and buy beer, cider, or even spirits. Shopkeepers didn't question it. It was just seen as a kid running an errand for their parents. A child walking home from the shops clutching a bottle of whiskey was unseen as suspicious. It was just normal life. Today, that same scenario would set off all sorts of alarm bells, and probably lead to a visit from social services. Number 6. Driving without seatbelts. Before 1983, it wasn't legally required to wear a seatbelt in the front seat of a car, and many older cars didn't even have them installed. When belts did become available, plenty of people refused to use them, complaining they were uncomfortable or just plain unnecessary. Even after the law changed, some argued it was an attack on their personal freedom. It's amazing to think about now. Today, driving without a seatbelt feels as reckless as driving blindfolded. But, for decades, millions of Brits didn't think twice about it. Number 7. Cigarette adverts on TV. In the mid-20th century, cigarette ads completely dominated prime-time television. Famous actors, popular athletes, and glamorous models all praised their favorite brands. Smoking wasn't just sold as a habit, it was sold as a lifestyle, stylish, healthy, and even adventurous. It seems unbelievable now, but it wasn't until 1965 that TV cigarette ads were finally banned. Later, sponsorships and billboard ads followed suit. Now, the idea of promoting cigarettes on television feels utterly absurd. Number 8. Teenagers drinking wine with dinner. Until fairly recently, a 16-year-old could legally drink wine or beer in a restaurant, as long as they were eating a proper meal. Many parents saw it as a good thing, a way of teaching moderation and a responsible attitude towards alcohol, rather than encouraging rebellion. Over time, the laws changed and public opinion shifted. Today, a restaurant serving alcohol to a minor would cause a massive uproar, but older generations remember it as a perfectly normal part of a family meal out. Number 9. Pints on the job. A quick pint wasn't always something you did after work for many, it was something you did during it. Office workers would disappear for liquid lunches, and on building sites or in shipyards, some employers even provided beer for their workers. It was seen as a morale booster and just part of the workplace culture. But by the 1980s, stricter drink driving laws and new health and safety rules brought the practice to a screeching halt. The days of a pint at your desk were over. Number 10. Hitchhiking everywhere. Sticking your thumb out at the side of the road was once a perfectly acceptable and very common way to travel. Students, workers, even entire families relied on it to get around. It was cheap, it was social, and it was surprisingly reliable. But as scary crime stories became more prominent in the news, people grew more fearful and trust eroded. Hitchhiking slowly faded away. It still exists today, but the widespread culture of it has all but vanished from Britain's roads. Number 11. Roads with no national speed limit. This one sounds truly insane. Before 1965, many rural roads in Britain had no speed limit at all. None. Drivers could go as fast as their cars would allow, and some treated the open roads like their own personal racetracks. After a string of very serious and high-profile accidents, the 70-mile-per-hour limit was introduced as a temporary measure, and then made permanent. Now, the idea of unlimited speed on British roads seems completely bonkers, but it really did happen. Number 12. Asbestos used everywhere. For decades, asbestos was hailed as a miracle material. It was fireproof, durable, and incredibly cheap. So, it was used in absolutely everything: insulation, floor tiles, roofing, even household items like oven gloves and ironing boards. Builders and factory workers handled it casually, often without any protective masks. It was only later that the deadly effects of breathing in asbestos fibers became tragically clear. Today, it remains a dangerous and expensive legacy hidden inside the walls of thousands of older buildings. Number 13. Drinking openly in public parks. There was a time when this was completely normal. Families would bring beer and wine to their picnics. Teenagers would gather with a few cans on warm evenings. It wasn't particularly unusual or frowned upon. But as concerns about antisocial behavior grew, local councils began introducing restrictions and bylaws. Now, drinking in many public parks can earn you a hefty fine. The relaxed attitude of the past has been replaced by rules and regulations. Number 14. Job adverts openly labelled men only or women only. Before the 1970s, if you opened a newspaper's job section, you'd find it was literally divided in two. There were jobs for men and jobs for women. Men were expected to apply for professional or manual labor roles, while women were steered towards secretarial work, nursing, or shop jobs. It was blatant discrimination, printed for all to see. The 1975 Sex Discrimination Act finally made these kinds of adverts illegal, but looking at old newspapers shows just how blatant and accepted this segregation once was. Number 15. Dogs wandering the streets alone. It used to be a common sight in towns and villages across Britain. Dogs roaming freely. Some were strays, but many were just pets that had been let out for the day to entertain themselves. Children played with them in parks, and local shopkeepers often knew the regular canine visitors by name. Eventually, leash laws, microchipping, and a greater awareness of road safety and hygiene brought the era of the free-roaming dog to an end. And finally, number 16. Corporal punishment in the armed forces. While public flogging had ended much earlier, other forms of corporal punishment lingered in parts of the British military for far longer than many people realize. It was seen as a necessary tool for maintaining discipline. But changing social attitudes and new human rights reforms finally put an end to the practice for good. Its long survival just goes to show how slowly some traditions fade away, even when they seem barbaric to outsiders. These reminders show just how quickly society can change. What felt completely normal just a generation or two ago can look shocking to us today. Which of these surprised you the most? Let us know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this look into the past, don't forget to like and subscribe for more forgotten pieces of UK history. Thanks for watching.